The 2002 Turbo has been whispered about in hushed tones ever since it was launched in 1973. BMW then didn't touch mainstream turbocharging for another 32 years. Could it be that even they thought that this thing was just a bit too much? Today, I want to explore why they sold so few of these, why BMW gave up on the technology for so long, and lastly, see if it's really as fearsome to drive as they say. And of course, we'll take a quick look and see what's on the market right now. Yes, I know, it wasn't the first production turbo. The Americans beat everybody to it. But they gave up almost immediately. It was the Europeans who embraced the technology and made it work. BMW was always an engine innovator, and this was Europe's first production turbocharged car. It beat both the Saab 99 and the Porsche 911 to it by a few years. This particular example belongs to BMW UK's heritage fleet, so a huge thanks to them for making my childhood dreams come true. They only built 1,672 of these over a period of 2 years. So why didn't it do better? And crucially, why did BMW then not use this technology in road cars for another 30 years? There's three possible answers to that. Some say that the problem was the looks. Even today, this thing is absolutely mental. Check out those incredible wheel arch extensions, the fat wheels and tyres, the wild graphics, that incredible front and rear spoiler combo. That all makes this uniquely purposeful today. But the 70s was a more conservative time, and BMW was criticised for just making it too aggressive. The original show car even had 2002 Turbo in giant mirrored writing on the front of that spoiler, so that when you came up behind someone, they could read exactly what was behind them. It was like a big get out of my way, because this is a powerful car. But it caused so much controversy at the show that BMW made it an option on production cars, and this particular one doesn't have it. Personally, I think that the looks are just about perfect. It's like a cartoon villain with those bulging arches and oh so 70s go faster stripes. The cost is another issue, both to buy and run. So they were all left-hand drive, but you could buy this in the UK. If you did in 1974, it would have cost you £4,260. That makes the 2002 TII at $2,600 look quite good value. But if you then consider that the TII was lacking 40 horsepower on the 170 that this produced, then it starts to seem not so much of an outrageous price. Maybe a bigger problem was that it was released during the 1973 oil shock. This meant that the cost of fuel had become a consideration. But even worse, that made this 2002 completely socially unacceptable at a time when the German government was rationing fuel. Lastly, some attribute the lack of sales to the way it drove. On the plus side, there was no small saloon capable of matching it until the E30 M3 came out in the 80s. But even that, I think, did just that. It matched it. I don't think it was any quicker than this. But the flip side is that it was considered flawed and difficult to drive. Some even said dangerous. And that is all down to the engine. Visually, it's a little bit of a letdown. The mechanical fuel injection can't compare to the drama of carbs with their trumpets. And of the fearsome turbo, there's no sign. That's because the big snail is buried by the exhaust manifold at the bottom of the engine next to the sump. The 2-litre M10 engine had just one overhead camshaft, and the compression ratio was an incredibly low 6.9 to 1. That's because there was no wastegate to handle the excess pressure, just a primitive pop-off valve. The technology was in its infancy, and as a result, the lag is legendary. That made it very tricky to handle. With 170 horsepower and just 1,060 kilos, the performance was also legendary. The thing is, can you exploit it on the road without killing yourself? Let's find out. The first thing you notice in here is just how sort of figure hugging these seats are. The side bolsters necessarily aren't that strong. It's more like around your hip and your bum. the whole seat sort of goes in. Anyway, it feels like they're going to be pretty good for spirited driving, and I'm just feeling emotional at the moment because I've dreamt about this car for so long. I remember when I was a kid and I used to see these in magazines. Anyway, let's start it up. So quick turn of the key, and it's all pretty civilised really. It's all quite easy so far. The only difference, by the way, in the interior from the normal cars is that this wooden panel here around the clocks, or panel whatever it is red, I believe. Everything else, and the seats are unique to the Turbo, but everything else is pretty much the same. So this has a dogleg 5-speed gearbox. I think the 5-speed was an option, which this car has. They didn't all come with it. It's the same with the alloy wheels. As standard, it would have come with steels, and I just love these little fat alloys. I think they just suit it so perfectly. One thing that becomes apparent immediately is that the tradition of BMW's gearboxes not being the best is carried through in this one as well. There's also a little bit of play in here, so I don't think it's all the car's fault. I think that the linkages are a little bit worn, but it's a bit obstructive. You have to be a little bit slow with it, and then there's so much movement across the gate as well. It's not a quick gear change. Once you know where the gears go though, it doesn't get into the way so much, and you've got a sort of uniquely 70s driving position, I think. It's not bad in the way that Italian cars are bad. The ratio between your legs and your arms isn't as bad, but the wheel is incredibly high up and it's quite tilted, which gives it a feeling of being a little go-kart. The diminutive size of the car itself helps too. On these little roads like this, you feel like you can just thread it through anywhere. Suspension wise, it was a little bit stiffer, but mainly it was wider than the 2002 Ti. And although there is a bit of inherent firmness there, it's really not bad. And of course, the tyres, high profile, they will help a little bit, make it feel more civilized. Even at this low speed, the steering is so talkative, it's constantly chatting to you, this car. Dead centre, nothing's happening at all, but the moment that you touch the wheel and you start to turn, it loads up with weight and feel. It's wonderful. And then you move down from 5th to 4th, and then 3rd, and you go through that notchy, rubbery feel, which spoils things a little bit, but this is where it really matters. We're gonna see what this engine is capable of. It's so purposeful, and I think the impressions that people gave at the time, they said it was like a kidney punch when it hits the boost, and I think that that is right, but I'm not feeling that it's quite as bad as some have said. So when I've read reviews in the past, everybody has said absolutely nothing happens, then you hit 4,000 and all hell breaks loose. I don't really agree. Even at 2,500, you can hear that turbo spooling up. And although it's not quick, there is an effect there. There's a bit of torque coming through, and the car is moving forward purposefully. It is true that once it hits 4,000, it really does start moving with a whole different purpose. Okay, 3,500 foot down. And it just keeps on pushing as well. There's none of that traditional big wave of turbo and then it just gives up the ghost. This one, it just keeps on tearing through the rev range right up until the red line, which is 6.4. Now see here, it's got usable power at 3.5 on this corner. I wouldn't put my foot right to the floor, but as long as you meter it out carefully with your foot, I don't think it's quite as fearsome as some have said. On the other hand, if you're not expecting it, I guess that it could really become a bit of a handful. It's not that all the power comes in at 4, it's just that once the power comes in, it does come in quite violently and it keeps coming. You know, it just doesn't drop off. it must have felt like an absolute rocket ship for the time. And it's not all about that turbo either, because the rest of the car behaves pretty well as well. That wider track means that it does corner reasonably flatly. And there's so much coming through from the front end. I have to say, in some corners it feels like you're going to chuck it in and it just wants to pivot on the front. It wants to dig in on the front and chuck the back end out. So yeah, I wouldn't like the power to come in all in a bang while that is happening, but really the secret is, while you're mid-corner, already have it in the power, and then you can meter it out quite effectively. Let's just take it through the gears one more time and then we'll see what it's like on the tighter corners. Now, another thing about it, which is really part of its character, is just that that turbo is always there whistling in the background, and it just sounds great. What a rush! Thankfully the brakes do feel up to the job. Yeah, just keep it above 4,000 and you're good. The chassis is good, it's got trailing arm rears, so I think it could let go quite spectacularly. I don't want to get to that stage, but third gear works perfectly there. I love it. I really love this thing. It's been one of my childhood heroes, and it really lives up to that cartoonish image which I've always had of it. The way it develops the power is comical, but it does also handle really well. Lovely steering. It has a fair amount of grip as it is. It's not precise, it has those balloon tyres, and also it's BMW steering really. I don't know if they've ever made a car which has absolutely 100% spot on steering in every way. Now, if my enthusiasm is contagious and you'd like to get one of these, I've got some bad news, because they are not cheap. The fact that they're so rare means that really, for a top-end one, you're looking between £80,000–100,000. So at the moment in the UK, there's two on sale, one white, one silver. For me, I have to say it would have to be white for this car. But anyway, the white one is with Munich Legends, and I think that's up for 85,000. And then there's another for 70, so a little bit more affordable. Now, the thing is, they are not cheap to run. The combination of that turbo, KKK, which is no longer available by the way, and the Kugelfischer injection means that it's not easy to keep in tune. If the turbo goes as well, you can't buy another one. You can have them rebuilt, but it's a long, expensive process. And as ever with cars of this era, but particularly the 202, you really have to watch out for rust. They go practically everywhere. You can get most panels, so you can have them rebuilt, but as you know, rust is the most expensive thing to fix, so you just don't want to go down that route. But what a car, and I think honestly, I know it's a kind of lowly small saloon, but for me it is worth every penny. And I love the fact that BMW made this crazy thing. Now, before you all say it, I know there was one or two production turbo BMWs in the 80s and the 90s. I think mainly the E23 745i. But it was really a half-hearted effort. BMW really didn't embrace turbocharging again until 2006. So why is that? I think there is the fact that it had that crazy reputation, it wasn't that successful, and it was released at the wrong time. But I think also BMW quite rightly made a choice that the technology wasn't yet up to scratch. Now, I find this absolutely beautiful and hilarious for its flaws. But BMW's choice of, instead of going down the turbo route, of using just well thought out, big, mainly inline sixes, was a better choice. Whereas all the Europeans, like the French, the Italians and so on, even the Brits, went heavy on the 2-litre turbos for their cars and saloons. BMW just had bigger engines, 2.8, 3-litre, the 2.5 straight sixes. That not only gave their cars a little bit of extra kudos, But as an engineering solution, when the technology was still so primitive, it was undoubtedly superior. And it helped them to go from a company that almost went bankrupt in the 60s to one of the most prestigious in the world. I absolutely love this thing. So BMW UK, if you ever want to sell it, you know where to go. Now, the 70s really was a time of incredible innovation for BMW, and 4 years after this came out, they made the M1 supercar. That's an incredible story. Do check that out. I filmed one of those a couple of years ago. Thank you so much to BMW for giving me this car, for lending me this car and letting me experience it. I've absolutely loved today, and thanks to all of you for watching.